We are live. And I've unmuted myself.
Wonderful.
Hello.
Hello.
So I think I'm just going to pause the music there. Good to see you again, Suzette. It feels like ages since we've seen each other.
Oh, yes.
Must be all of 90 minutes since rehearsals earlier today. So welcome everyone to interview number 7. We'll be interviewing various cast members from 13 Seconds in Kent State shortly, our online drama web series, I guess you'd call it. We are dropping our next episode tomorrow at 8 o'clock GMT. That's 3 o'clock East Coast American time. I think it's 2 o'clock in Chicago, 12 noon in LA. We're going to be doing episode 4, which heavily features the Scheuer family, and you're going to be meeting them this evening along with a couple of others of our cast, and also co-founder of the Outcasts, none other than the Chinook himself, Dickon Tolson. So first time we've had Dickon on tonight. But first we're going to show you a clip from last week's episode 3, which heavily featured the Scheuers in a scene, and some of you might not have seen episode 3 yet. This doesn't have big spoilers in it, so it's not going to ruin any endings for anyone. Just got to make sure that I can share it properly, and then after that we will bring in our guests. Suze, anything to add?
No, it's just come. Oh, it's happened so fast that we've got to the end. Seems like it's happened.
Yeah, because the last episode is actually happening. We should say this now, and we'll say it again at the end. Please remind me at the end if I forget, Suze. Mm-hmm. The last episode is happening on the 51st anniversary of the shootings of Kent State, May 4th itself, 1970. That's going to be on Tuesday. The 51st anniversary is on Tuesday. So our last episode 5, will be 8 o'clock on Tuesday, not next Sunday, as I think some people are already thinking we're on next Sunday. Great. So we've got a clip lined up for you here where you're going to get to meet the Scheuers. If you've seen episode 3, you'll have seen this already. But if you haven't, it's a short clip. And right, okay, so I'm just going to mute myself.
Is meatloaf, grits, and gravy.
Oh, I think we're going to need a couple more minutes, if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah, sure, no hurry.
Can we get a couple of butts, please?
A couple of butts?
Budweisers?
Oh, buds! Yeah, coming right up.
Martin, don't you think it would be better to wait until we get home to start drinking?
Nope.
The evidence speaks for itself, Mr. Kellner. Waitress! Another bottle of your finest, sweetheart.
We'll find somewhere else to eat.
But Louie just got here.
I'm not eating in the same establishment as those men.
Well, I'm staying. We've let those people drag our children's names through the mud. Are we going to let them choose where we eat too?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Scheuer. Those people, they make me forget my manners.
Oh, please, Louis, call me Sarah. I think we all know each other well enough by now to be on first name terms.
I just wish we'd met you all under different circumstances.
Amen to that.
Things are as they are, and there's nothing we can do about that. I will say one thing, though. In this whole god-awful nightmare, meeting such fine people as yourselves and the Krauses and Mrs. Holstein has been, well, it's just...
We understand. We do, don't we?
Fantastic stuff. I wanted to play a bit more of that, but I think that's more than sufficient, as we've got 7 cast members, I think, coming in today. So, Suze, without any further ado, should we bring them in? And Suzette will introduce them. Don't forget to unmute yourself, Suzette. Introduce them, and we'll ask them to tell you who they are and what they're playing in 13 seconds in Kent State. So here we are, coming in now. And actors, if you haven't done it already, please, next to your own name, if you could put your character name first and then your actual name, we would be most grateful. So thank you so much for taking your Saturday night away from your pandemic activities and coming and spending it with us. Oh, well done, Brad. I was just about to change your name for you. Thank you.
Would you mind doing mine as well, please?
I'll do Bella's, yeah. Is anybody else not able to change their name?
So what's her character name? KSU Student 2003?
It is.
How many other characters have the same character name, Lance?
Don't give anything away.
Welcome, Dickon.
Yeah, Dickon, stop spoiling the ending.
Well, I just think she's the only one that really talks or whatever, and it's her only character, so I think
KSU student. It's KSU student.
differentiated in some way.
She's KSU student. Okay. Anyway, we're getting a bit sidetracked already. I told you it was a mistake to bring Dickon on. Let's put him back in the waiting room.
With like 8 actors, you're going to go off on so many tangents and paragraphs of.
I'm sure we won't, because we'll just mute you if that happens. Okay, so guys, thanks very much for coming on. So perhaps we'll start with the Scheuer family first and the patriarchal mother. So Mrs. Preston, if you'd like to perhaps introduce yourself and say who you're playing in this production while I change your name for you.
Yes, thank you. So I'm Jennifer Preston, and I have the honour of playing Sarah Scheuer, mother to Sandy Scheuer, one of the very tragic victims of the shootings.
Thank you very much. Amy.
Hello.
Hello.
I am Amy Ginsberg, and I have the extreme honour of playing Sandy Scheuer.
Thank you. And who is your father?
I like that.
This is my dad.
You want to introduce your dad? Let's hear from your dad.
Hello, my name is Dickon Tolson, and I have the fantastic honour but privilege to play Martin Scheuer, who is father to the lovely Sandy, and obviously has the great pleasure of being the husband to Sarah. So it's obviously really. It's bittersweet though, isn't it? Because it's a great honour to play these characters, but obviously it's really horrible that we have to.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand. And I heard a rumour that you're also co-founder of the Outcast, but you're not wearing your Outcast hoodie, so that information must be incorrect. So yeah, fantastic. And then we have 4 of our supporting players with us tonight. Some of whom have worked with us on other productions, and some others who are complete virgins, like my good friend Brad. If you want to introduce yourself, Brad.
I'm Brad Hepburn, and I have the supreme honor of playing the Reverend John Adams. And he was said to be the moral and tactical support, and really the powerhouse behind all the efforts surrounding the Kent State massacre and the trial to get some justice.
Yeah, it was a big support to the families, and I think he was at the trial every day. And I'll anyone that's watching on chat, by the way, if you have any questions for our actors, do chuck them in. We've got 14 people watching now. Okay, so let's move on. Penny.
Hi.
This is like blind date. Tell us who you are.
Hi, yeah, my name is Penny Merlin Woods, and I am playing
Reporter 1, Juror 1, Bonnie Henry, and the KSU student 2003. And yeah, that's me.
4 parts, no less. Great to have you. Great to have you on, Penny. Thanks very much, Mel.
Hello, I'm Melissa Stanton, and I play several roles. I should be playing Mrs. Kayla, Dean's mum, in episode 4, but I'm also a reporter and several other roles.
Oh, someone's got their speaker on. Please, please mute your other device. Also, Mel, very quickly, I'm just going to say you spelt the Kayla surname wrong.
Have I?
It's all right. I'm correcting it as I speak. There we go.
And also,
I apologise.
That's all right. I did. It's fine because it's a late addition to the script, that scene, yeah, it's not a very common surname.
And can I also say that Mel is doing a stellar job of female cover during the episodes, which is
yes,
yeah.
The people who do cover on our show are kind of unsung heroes in the sense that we have 2 actors covering male and female roles, because what can happen during a performance, it's live theatre essentially online, people's internet can go down. You know, mum can come in with the Hoover and suddenly pull the cable out the wall, that sort of thing. Or, you know, Dickens' children can come running in. Dad, we need that machine to turn it into a fort, and then, you know, suddenly Dickens off camera. So these things can happen. We had it happen quite a few times in our last production, and we had it in place, and we got through it. It was all right. Last but by no means least, Miss Jacobs.
Hello, hi. I'm Bella Jacob, and I play KSU student 2003. The KSU student 2003.
Main one. Yeah,
one
you're the
amongst
only one
many. It's an
credited with
honor.
that role in the title. Let's to be clear about that. So we got a bit of a standard format for this. We'll keep it organic. I'll try and ask questions as and when they come in, if we get anything. What we'll do is we'll ask each of you a question. We'll try and let everybody answer each question if we can, but we've got more people than normal, so try and keep your answers short and concise. Something I'm not very good at doing, I have to say, but short and concise and to the point, and fun stuff. So, Suze, our first question, please, to contestant number 1.
I do feel like I'm on blankety blank.
It does feel like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's just a question of what did you know about Kent State, if anything? What was your knowledge prior to the production about the Kent State Massacre, May the 4th?
Yeah, and it's a 2-part question, because if you did know anything, if the answer is yes, I did, and I knew X, then we'd also like to know, did you know that the civil trial had taken place in 1975? And if so, what did you know about it? So age before beauty, Brad, we'll go with you first on that question. And you're also one of our cast members from overseas, technically.
Yes.
Yeah, so do tell. And absolute pleasure to be working with you on this, and I'm really glad that you got involved.
Well, although I am the underdog here in the cast, I really meant it when it was quite an honor to be chosen to do Reverend Adams. And the whole incident about Kent State University, you know, means a lot to me, because I think I don't know everybody in the staff well. The only one that was around as a young man in America when that all happened. Certainly remember the massacre, because I was going into university at that time. But as far as the trial, it was not covered. It was really back page stuff. And in 1975, you know, this band of people trying to get justice. It was really done in the backwaters of Ohio. It just wasn't making the news. And other things were certainly overtaking the news as well in 1975 with the war over. So to answer your question, I absolutely remember it. And And it was part of a whole backdrop of craziness that was going on in the United States. And this war in particular was unlike any war that we had grown up to learn about. World War I, World War II, blah, 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 blah. And this was, our friends were going over there and coming back, well, coming back either dead or completely screwed up because of the atrocities that they saw, everything that they saw. And a lot of people didn't talk about it. Many people who are my age, you know, suffered from PTSD and a lot of guilt. And it was really messed up. It was a messed up time.
Did you lose any friends personally over there, or anyone from your town or anything like that?
Yeah, so I grew up in a small school in rural Massachusetts, and so I was 17, and the boys in the classes above me were already being. Remember, it was it was voluntary draft, and then it became a mandatory draft. And once, I think it was once a year, I forget when they did it. There was a big production on TV when they had
tombola, and they pulled out a date, and if your birthday was on that date, you were getting drafted.
Like a bingo game. It was just like a bingo game, you know, and we would sit around the TV, you know, fingers crossed. And in our case, my brother, who was 3 years older, he was up for the draft. So fingers crossed that his birthday didn't come out. So there were certainly guys in my brother's class, and this is a really small school, and they went. And in the beginning, it was all, you know, razzle dazzle, patriotic, rah rah, stuff like that. But then they started coming back. And then we started eventually, just as it was said in the play, didn't really hear about what was going on there till well into the war. Definitely. So yeah. And my uncle went over there, and he was stationed over there. And I think I wrote a piece on my Facebook page.
Yeah.
The only time I ever told the story was when he came back home for a family funeral. And I was 18 at the time, first year of college, and he pulled me outside, and he said, "Did you get a deferment?" Which was, you know, a form that you filled out to say that you were at university, which deferred you from being drafted. And I said I did. And he said, "If I ever find out that you got drafted, I am coming back here, hunting you down, and breaking both your legs if you don't move to Canada."
Okay.
Yeah. He was really, and that's the only, and when he came back, he never talked about it. It was a horrible thing.
Yeah, interesting. Wow, fantastic. Penny, what about you?
Yeah, I had heard about Kent State shootings because I was 11 when it first happened, and my parents were quite political, so they often had the news on, so we did hear about it, and we were quite shocked about what happened, but I didn't know anything about this civil case at all until this production.
Right.
Yeah.
And you were based in the UK when it happened, Penny?
I was in London, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Jennifer.
Well, it happened before I was born, but the aftermath of the war itself was something I was very aware of because my dad was in Vietnam. I'm American and he's American. I'm a dual national, but he left college and went straight to join the Air Force and then ended up in Vietnam. And it's something that he never talked about. And also, the one story I do know is that he was in his barracks and was persuaded to go out to the, you know, to have some drinks and things, which was something he really didn't do because he's quite a quiet person. And when he came back, the barracks had been razed to the ground, and, you know, hundreds of people that he knew really well had been lost. So it really impacted him. And, you know, just like what's been said, it wasn't something that he wanted to really talk about at all. So I grew up just very aware of that war and you know, how awful it was and what a legacy it left behind. And I did have an awareness of this case, and not the civil case, but of the shooting. And actually, when I saw the photos, when we were doing the research, they felt somehow familiar to me. And I don't know whether that's because they are just so raw and so powerful, and just sort of you can connect with humanity regardless of whether you've seen them before. They just really resonated with me, or whether I had actually seen them before, but they felt very familiar.
Yeah, Howard Ruffner's pictures and John Philo's pictures have both been on, covers of magazines, Lifetime, that sort of thing, and kind of iconic pictures that also have been used in opening title sequences of shows. Like I think one season of The Wonder Years had one of those photos in, and I mean, it happened before my time as well. But if you're fairly tuned into the media in that era, and you see them later in life, you kind of think, I've seen these images before, and then you start to place where.
Yeah.
And somebody described it as the George Floyd moment of that era where the Jeff Miller photograph was concerned. And that is interesting, because once that photograph got published, that was a massive, I'm sure Brad will agree, that was a massive turning point in the psychology of the Vietnam War. Yeah. So imagine if you'd had social media back then. I think we talked about this on the last interview. And so Dickon, as the oldest member present at this interview, surely you must have heard, you served in Vietnam, didn't you?
Thank you.
I used to like you, Lance.
Dickon wasn't born when the events come out. It is Saturday night. We do have to keep things a little bit light.
I hadn't heard about them until you started talking about doing it as the script, and then I asked my mum about it, and she started talking about it in the context of where she was in her life. It was it happened like 3 years before I was born, so I wasn't even a twinkle in my daddy's eye at that point. But my mum was at university in York, and she was a hippie. I grew up in a commune the first 4 years of my life, so I was surrounded by rice and lentils and buckwheat and millet and couscous and all that, and a lot of the philosophies that go along with that. And I think it's not just about when it happened either, and the people it happened to. It's travesties of justice like this are occurring all the time, and it's really sad that this happened over 51 years ago on Tuesday, and things are still happening like that all the time, and we still don't have rights to protest like we should have. We call this a democratic state, but it's not true democracy. It's a poor reflection of democracy.
Yeah.
And I think as long as we keep trying to make Iran and all these other countries be democratic, as we were 50 years ago, we have to at least practice what we preach. And if we can't practice what we preach in our own countries, then how can we expect other people to practice what they preach, or even practice what we preach to them? So I think it's really relevant now, and that's why I feel like it's a really interesting project, because you have to take it in context of what's happening today, as well as the historical context of when it happened. And it was really important then, but it's still just as important now.
Amy,
thank you.
Have you heard anything about Kent State before this?
Oh, no.
Our youngest member here, I think.
Yeah, I am the absolute opposite. I had not a clue. Didn't know there was a war in Vietnam.
You didn't even know there was a war in Vietnam?
Look, history is not my strong suit. I was playing sports and drama at school. I mean, I'm sure I did. I'm sure I was like, oh, maybe.
I'm going to give you a big list of films to watch after this.
Bring you up to speed. Know about it because it's fascinating. Yeah. I think as well, I was always, if you're not interested, as like at school, I wasn't particularly interested in geography and all these academic subjects. I was just like, let me play sports and act. That I just didn't know. But then now that I'm a bit older, I actually am enjoying learning about it now as an adult, because when I was a kid, I just didn't care.
Yeah.
Whereas now learning about it's actually better. Like I understand it more than I would have if I'd learned about it at school. I
mean, we'll talk more about what playing such an iconic role means to you as an individual later. That's a question coming up. But now you must have a grasp of the social impact of that event, and realise actually this is a moment in history that was like
George
Floyd.
Yeah.
That Yeah, so you've got an understanding of it.
When someone compared it, I think it was in the chat, to like when they said the George Floyd moment, because obviously that's something that, yeah, absolutely, I've been to campaigns for and done backed to the hills. So this is like that generation's thing of that. So
yeah,
I absolutely am now aware, and yeah, like I said, I'm enjoying learning about it now that I'm older and actually care. Because
yeah, and there's no shame in not knowing too much about Kent State. We did an interview, one group of our cast, I can't remember which number interview it is, this is 7, where we went round and no one had ever heard of it, no one had ever heard of the civil trial. This is the premium group, where we're obviously there's we've got some Americans in here, we've got people that were brought up in
I need to be with the beginners,
certain environments, and we you know, got maybe some of the older generation in this group of interviews, but we had another group, no one had ever heard of it. And so they've all been educated about it as a result of this production, which they're very grateful for.
The thing is, it's American history as well. Like at school, we get taught whatever you think of the British curriculum.
Yeah.
We get taught about glaciation and all that. So, you know, why I didn't go to school in America, and why would we now, I guess, when it's so far back.
Yeah. And then if you're interested in it, you would source that stuff out. But if it's not in your interest at that time, you don't look at
it. Exams, aren't you?
Yeah.
Same
question, Mel.
I didn't know about it before. No, I was not born until the end of 1971. So in 75, I was still only 3, but I do remember the aftermath of the Vietnam War, because there were several of the Vietnamese boat families came over to here. And I remember going to the swings and slides with the neighborhood kids, and an adult suddenly appeared with this very small young Vietnamese girl who didn't speak any English, and said, she's lost her parents, somebody's taken her in, can you play with her for a little while?
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and I remember the other kids that I was with didn't have any interest in speaking to her because she couldn't speak any English. And they sort of went off to one corner, and I played with her for a little bit. I think I managed to make her smile briefly. And then somebody came and collected her, and I don't know what happened to her after that. I never heard any more.
Where would this have been?
In Farnham, in Surrey.
In the sort of what, mid to around 76 or 78?
It would be 75, 76, yeah.
So if you were from Vietnam and you were playing in a child's playground in Farnham around 1976, and you remember a younger version of Melanie came up and offered you kindness, get in touch.
And one of my friends in school was one of the Vietnamese boat families as well, but she was with her actual family. She didn't get separated. We're still friends now, actually, with her.
Bella, what did you know about Kent State prior to
I also didn't know anything about it, but as soon as you started talking about the story and you know what you were planning to do, of course, you know, it was quite obvious kind of how important this was. And yeah, it's obviously an incredible story and hard to believe that this really happened. And you know, I briefly went to school in the States, and I did take history there. And, you know, looking back at it, it is interesting. It was kind of like an eye-opener that, having been in different school systems in different countries, just how different history is taught. Obviously, you know, the wars and perspectives on war, and kind of it really is different depending on where you live. And I wonder how it would have been if we had discussed those events in class. You know, it makes me wonder. And yeah, so I didn't know anything about it.
Okay, fair enough. Well, that's an interesting group, because we've had a mix of answers this time. And it's nice to particularly hear a perspective like Brad's, of somebody who had friends who went to Vietnam and didn't come back, and you know, kids from their school. And I watched Born on the 4th of July again the other night, which I was sending pictures to in our WhatsApp group, encouraging our cast to have a look at it. And I haven't watched the film in about 10 years. I was working at the cinema when it was on, so I went into town to see it first, even though I was working at the cinema, and then I watched it God knows how many times. I think it's a fantastic film, true story about Ron Kovich, and that's a really good journey of how that war just damaged people and for nothing. And then Oliver Stone's third film of his Vietnam trilogy was told from the side of a Vietnamese woman, Heaven and Earth, and that's a very underrated movie, I think. So there's a lot of stuff out there in addition to the various documentaries about Kent State and all that kind of thing.
What years were those?
Born on the 4th of July was made in 1809. It was the film that he did after Platoon, but before JFK.
It's just that Hollywood, they couldn't even address the Vietnam War for quite some time.
No, it wasn't until Oliver Stone made Platoon.
Yeah,
that was the film that actually said that's what it was like.
And just pointing out for everybody that that's the feeling in the United States. There's so much shame associated with that war. That people weren't wanting to even, touch it with a 10-foot pole and make a movie of it. The very first one that came out, the first two came out was Apocalypse Now.
Oh, yeah, that's brilliant.
Awesome.
Both of them, were just horrid, screwed up men that can't reintegrate into society. It was really, really, really. Yeah. And you may have enjoyed it, Lance, but I thought
I didn't actually. I didn't enjoy Apocalypse Now. It was an interesting film to watch.
Scary.
It was the first film I ever saw about Vietnam. I can't say that I enjoyed it. And I first saw it on video because, you go down to the video shop, you're like with your mate, you're like 11 or whatever. And then you've got some bored guy working behind the counter and you can see all the action films and a lot of them are like 18. So you're like, oh yeah, we're going to rent this one out, mate. How old are you? Oh yeah, 18, yeah. Don't look 18. We are. We had this whole routine worked out. It went on for about half an hour. I'm sure the guy found it really entertaining. Anyway, eventually he'd get bored and give us the video. And I remember us watching now, and we didn't understand what we were watching. I didn't understand what I was watching. And things back then got packaged up as what they weren't.
Does he stop? Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
My point was that we were so used to in America that their films, war films, were real patriotic and and inspirational and and the good guys winning and stuff like that. And the stuff that started coming out about Vietnam were totally different, and just really, really kind of screwed up.
Yeah. Well, it was a screwed up war.
It was.
Yeah, I didn't really understand Vietnam until I saw Platoon. I think that was the film that educated me on Vietnam. Apocalypse Now didn't educate. I didn't understand what I was watching when I watched Apocalypse Now. I didn't even know that was based on any truth, and I didn't know anything about the Vietnam War. I was very young when I watched that movie, though. To be fair, but this kind of brings us on to research, doesn't it?
When I was a kid, there was a very iconic picture of this little girl, a Vietnamese girl who was about 5 or 6 years old, and her clothes had been blown off by napalm, and that was a really
running along the street naked.
Yeah, and that was for me, that was a really shocking picture because I was only a child myself and I couldn't understand why that was happening to children.
Yeah.
And my parents, I went on loads of I was taken on loads of demonstrations by my parents because they were against the war in Vietnam. So I actually went on loads of demonstrations as a kid, not unnecessarily particularly wanted to, although I didn't agree with it, but as a child. So I was kind of very aware of the Vietnam War as a child because it was kind of talked about a lot and there was a lot of protests about it.
Did anyone here go on the big London protest, or there were several around the UK against the war in Iraq, the second war in Iraq?
No, I didn't go. I wanted to go, but I didn't go.
I
agreed with it
because I
wasn't here. I wasn't here.
Right.
My mum tells a lovely story about that because me and my mate Lex went, but my mum had been was walking in the march, and there was somebody holding up a thing about, I think it was saying that it was wrong, but also from a Jewish point of view or something. So this person was being berated in the crowd, even though everyone was anti-war, because she had a placard saying, you know, Jews don't want this to happen either, because a lot of people were saying that Jewish people kind of wanted it to happen. And my mum sort of befriended her, and it turned out it was my mate's mum. Oh, so she was, you know, out of all the people to find and all the people to befriend and sort of support each other in this protest, and I was there in a different part with my mate, and you know, my mum was with his mum, so it was quite a synchronicitous moment.
Yeah, same moment.
Interesting. So this is a question mainly for the actors playing the Scheuers, I guess, or you know, I guess everyone can answer it. But you're playing a person who really existed. I think in the case of this particular group of actors, no one's playing anyone who's still alive. What kind of research did you do to, you know, get the role to where you feel you needed it to be? I mean, obviously there's a lot of material on the page, but I'd like to hear about that, what kind of things people did. Jennifer, what about you? Sarah Scheuer is quite an iconic character in our story, and quite a big character in the Kent State story.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's quite daunting, actually, taking on a real life person. And I've noted that a lot of actors will talk about, you really have two choices. You can either try and emulate that person, almost mimic them, you know, study them, study videos and footage, maybe meet them if they're still alive, or meet people that knew them, and try and, you know, capture their physicality and their characteristics. Or you can just kind of honor their essence. And I think that's obviously what I had to do, because there was a limited amount of material available. So there was an awful lot on the internet, and lots of historical information about what happened and how it happened. It was a bit more difficult to find information about the family. One thing that was tremendously insightful for me, apart from the script, which I'll go on to in a moment, was Sandy's scrapbook, which has been you first sent that to me, and I've seen stuff about it subsequently, and it's so beautiful. And what it really does is, and I don't want to steal thunder from Amy talking about Sandy herself, but what it did do was just capture a sense of their life as a family prior to the shooting. And it was such a full life. And what I love in the script is how you've captured the in episode 4, which we're going to be having on Sunday, is this lovely family fun vibrancy in the episode, and also this beautiful connection between mother and daughter, you know, and that then just sets up this horrific sadness for me, and I'm a real mum, so you know I can connect to that, and so that's what I tried to do. That she felt in some way guilty. And I mean, losing a child has got to be one of the most sad and tragic things to happen to a parent. And I think she felt in some way responsible, because Sandy was wearing a red top, and she felt like maybe she was picked out by the guards because she was wearing red. You know, she was a highly visible, an easy target. And she bought her that top, and she felt responsible in some way. And then that's beautifully captured in the script as well. So there's an awful lot on the page, as you say, for me to pick up and to, you know, understand where her story was. And that, together with some of the historical information, particularly Sandy's scrapbook, really helped me. And you know, I hope I do it justice.
I think there's a lovely scene that we should see on Sunday between you and Mummy Schroeder. That is coming along really nicely. I can't wait for people to see that.
I think you might mean the scene between Sarah Scheuer and Elaine Holstein, actually.
Oh, Elaine, yes.
Is it Elaine? Okay.
Yeah, is it the one where?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
That one.
By the way, the granddaughter of, the daughter of Audrey Scheuer, So that's Audrey Scheuer is Sandra's sister, older sister. Her daughter Shauna is watching now. It's just told me.
Oh.
So
Hi, Shauna.
yeah, because she said she's got to sign off shortly, but we'll catch the rest of it later. But she is watching. So Audrey may also be watching as well, in which case, big love to Audrey and Shauna on behalf of myself and all the company.
Absolutely.
Martin Scheuer, none other than my good friend, practically family to me, Dickon Tolson. What research did you do for the schnitzel scene? Tell us about your character.
I've made schnitzel a couple of times actually in the last couple of months, and I'm not bad at it, to be honest. I don't need that much mess. I like to wash up after myself. I don't create such a hullabaloo in the kitchen as Martin apparently. It's a weird one because, like, for Charles Brill, when I was doing Charles Brill, I went to the Kent State University website. He worked there. He was a journalist teacher, media teacher. So there's lots of articles about him, lots, But when I looked at Martin Scheuer, there wasn't actually that much about him. And the scrapbook came to light very recently for me, but it looks beautiful and it really took my breath away. But for me, as Jennifer sort of alluded to earlier, I'm taking the sort of essence approach. And apart from your conversation with Audrey, who sort of gave me a couple of clues about his accent, it was still a very thick German accent, that he'd managed to retain that, and he didn't have such a Yiddish tinge on it or anything like that. So I could sort of play it straight German, and Bella, who's on the call, has been invaluable as a dialect coach on that for me.
Coach.
Because otherwise I think I would have just come up with some pastiche. But I think she's making my accent a bit more genuine. But I saw my dad when my sister died. And that to me was very educational in terms of seeing parents who lose their children. I'd lost my sister. I felt really rubbish. But to see my dad lose his daughter was a real eye-opener. It really sort of made me think about the depth of feeling of loss and the injustice. The natural course of events wasn't being followed. There was something wrong with the universe. And I was walking around thinking, well, why hasn't the world stopped turning? Why isn't everybody weeping and wailing? But the gravity of the feelings that he had must have been even worse. And then seeing the effects of that on my other sister, because her dad was absent. He was a shell of a man. He wasn't there anymore. So my dad lost a daughter, but also my other sister kind of lost a dad. And that's how, you think about
your sister, mate. When did she lose?
She died in 2004.
Oh, right. That was around the time we were sort of getting to know each other.
Yeah. But still twice a year I cry, and every time I hear Green Day, what's that song? That I think it's called Renaissance or something, but Resonance or something. It's about I hope you had the time of your life. I cry every time I hear that song, because my dad made a video of my sister with that as the song. So it doesn't matter. It's 2004, 16 years ago. I still feel it. So I can get a little bit of what Martin's feeling through watching my dad go through that as well. And I wouldn't wish that. And last night when we were in a rehearsal for episode 5, and I felt so angry in character. I felt so angry and I wanted to pick up a chair and chuck it at my own computer. I wanted to smash my chair up, because you can't. It just seems wrong. It just seems wrong to lose your daughter. and it just seems to
Yeah,
something wrong with the universe. There's something wrong with. There's a disturbance in the force, as you would say, Lance.
Yeah, I can't imagine how I would. I'm not a parent, but I can't imagine how I would deal with that. Amy, you play the iconic Sandra. I'm putting up a picture of her now. Of all the pictures of Sandra Scheuer, this is the one I've always found really fascinating. Do you know Amy, do you know the name of the dog? I'm going to take that as a no. The name of the dog is Heavy, and she nicknamed the dog Heavy because it was pregnant, and apparently the dog was I think the dog was kind of a stray. It was a female dog that was heavily pregnant that was wandering around the Kent State campus and took a liking to Sandra. And where she's sitting in that picture, she's sitting opposite the ROTC building, the burnt out shell of it. So it's kind of so weird to think that, you know, she's sitting in the middle of this social political event that's just turning on the clock and sitting there pensively, that really thoughtful face. I you know, constantly think, what was she thinking then? It's almost surreal. How did you find it playing this character? I mean, and what digging did you do to get there?
First of all, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, did we lose your audio there for a bit?
I don't know. I'm not sure, just because you said I wasn't sure if you could hear.
Oh, yeah, that's okay.
So for me, there's kind of several layers to this, because as Jen kind of rightly said, you can take on the character as the character and try and copy who they are, but why would we do that? And they're not here to do that. And so then we go for the essence of who they are. I have no idea if you know this, Lance, or anyone in the cast or whatever. I'm Jewish, my family's Jewish, and my grandparents both survived the concentration camps. My grandma survived Auschwitz, and my papa was in Dachau, and he was in concentration camps for like 7 years. They should not be alive. I shouldn't be here. My mum and my auntie shouldn't have been. Like, there's no way on paper that these two people survived what they went through. So that, for me, when we're talking about schnitzel, I have grown up eating schnitzel my entire life. My food when I went to my granny's every Friday was schnitzel and goulash and cutlet, and her and Papa would speak German to each other, and they would speak Yiddish and other languages too. I feel like they just knew loads. I was too young to even know. So that kind of like Jewish, when I found out that she was Jewish, after I saw her name first of all, and I was like, that sounds Jewish. And you start doing your research, I was like, oh, Jewish family, fab. So immediately for me, and the fact that I look like her, I see pictures and I'm like, you know, I think we look fairly similar. For me, immediately, I just kind of went, oh, well, obviously I'm playing this girl. Like, of course I'm playing this girl. I just immediately felt I can play her. And then I'm reading the script and I'm reading who she is and what she's like. And we're similar. She's this kind of character. She seems very chatty and bubbly, and she was always kind of with her friends, and it's like, it's all that in the script, is that, you know, it says in her opening speech, which obviously people will hear tomorrow, that her favorite thing is to make her friends laugh.
I think you are. I mean, I only know Sandra through Audrey Scheuer, the materials we've read, and what other people have said about her, and the little letters and things that people wrote. But straight away, when we were casting this, I knew straight away I wanted Jennifer for the mum and you for the daughter, and you look like a mother and daughter, you know.
We do. I was working today, and I was showing the guy I was working with. I was like, this is what I'm doing at the minute, and I was like, look, this is my mum. And he was like, yeah, identical.
And I come from a Jewish family as well, so there's obviously a connection. Yeah,
I didn't know that background. I don't think either myself or Dickon knew that background, Amy. That's fascinating. I'm just going, that list of films I'm going to give you to watch got even bigger now.
I'll give you books that my papa's written and what's what.
Wow. we needed to have another interview about this. That's fascinating, and there's kind of a nice synergy with that as well. That you are playing this role. I think that's great.
Yeah, immediately when when Suzette had messaged saying this is the role, and I started googling. I knew, I was like,
we need to reach out to the Jewish Chronicle in London. I hadn't even thought about that. They follow.
Well, I speak to I've got contacts Adam at the Jewish Telegraph, and
I think we should.
They've done quite a lot.
I hadn't really thought about pushing that angle in the media at all, to be honest. Guess I've been too busy rehearsing.
But then, obviously, aside of that, we've already covered scrapbook, internet. There is a ton of research, so clearly that all goes into it too. But for me, I just immediately, there was no 2 seconds where I wasn't connected 100%, because I was like, I could have been that girl.
So, Brad, Reverend Adams, a bit more of an elusive character, perhaps?
Oh, not at all.
No? Oh, great.
No, I was so pleased that you gave me him. Well, I didn't know who he was, like yourself. I didn't know who he was. And largely, he kept in the background. But when I started doing research, and he's mentioned everywhere, but when I actually dug down and found out who he is, the impression is he's like some local preacher or something like that. But he was nationally known because he was an expert conflict resolution person. He was an advisor to the Pentagon and to the FBI. And they would send him in to do negotiations in hostage situations. He was sent to Iran when there was the 52 Americans that were kept hostage in the U.S. embassy there, whatever. So he was an amazing guy. The more and more I read about him, and someone should make a documentary just about him. And so he was the one who contacted all of the family in 1971 because he was passionate about human justice, civil rights, human rights, and he contacted them when the federal investigation was closed and encouraged them to put a case together, and that he would support them. And then he set up a fundraising committee or whatever. It was the Kent States Law something fund, and raised almost $250,000 towards the effort.
Wow.
So he was an extraordinary guy. The newspapers called him the cussing clergy. I sort of wish I had been written in as the cussing clergy instead of because he was really down to earth. He was always in the forefront of the marches, the sit-ins. He was arrested with the students when they were trying to build the gymnasium on the grounds of the massacre. He was actually in the front with Martin Luther King when they walked across the Selma Bridge. And I found out that he was the first white person ever to receive the Martin Luther King Jr. award from the NAACP. So he was. I
feel like we've underwritten your character now. It feels like you should have more dialogue. What a fascinating.
He was absolutely. So he is now my hero, and because a lot of his ethos is something that I would aspire to be, and sadly he died a few years after the trial. And he got cancer, and he went back to his home state in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and he died at the age 59. So he was a huge loss to the world. But you could pick up how the affection and the trust and the respect that the families had for this man, because he was just, he actually moved from Washington, D.C. to decamp to Cleveland, Ohio, just to see them through the trial.
Yeah, he lived there, didn't he?
Huge amount of sacrifices. So thank you very, very much for casting me as Reverend Adams, and he is now my hero.
Well, I knew with you being age 53, you were just the right age to play him, as he would have been in 1975. So, it's been great having you on. And Brad and I worked together in other fields, but I've never had the pleasure of directing him.
Seeing my talent
in something. So it's a bit different for Bella, Penny, and Mel. Mel maybe has got a little bit of a historical character, but primarily you guys are sort of playing. You're doing the supporting roles, reporters, people we meet very briefly that we don't really have an arc in our plot and our story. I just want to say on behalf of myself and all the cast that we're especially grateful to you, because the reasons for committing to doing anything voluntarily are always, oh, you know, yeah, the role's great, I can get my teeth into this. And, you know, it's in some ways, it's an even bigger ask to ask someone to do reporter one who's got a line here and a line there and a line here and a line there. And you know, but the production would not work without you guys. If you guys weren't coming in and doing these supporting characters, and Melissa and I did expand the cassata cake role to some degree. But,
and I did Google the recipe for it as well.
I look forward to you bringing one to my birthday party.
Absolutely.
No, seriously, though, we are very grateful, in particular to those who come and do smaller roles, because, like I say, you're part of the engine, and without you being in the engine, the play don't work.
I felt like it was I had this really strong feeling that I wanted to be involved in this production, because I felt that the message that it was conveying, one, educating people about the event, which a lot of people don't even know about, but I still think that it's really relevant about the state of democracy and people being allowed to peacefully demonstrate. I think it's still relevant today, and I just had this feeling that it was really important, and I really wanted to be involved in it. I was hoping to get another part, but I was actually really glad that I still got some parts out of it.
There was all of the outcasts, pretty much. I think there was a couple of people that were away on other projects, but all of our regulars wanted to be involved, and we didn't have parts for everybody. We didn't have the right parts for everybody, and I think that we have more female members than male members, and of course all of the National Guard were men, all of the lawyers were men, the 9 injured students were all men, and then we had 4 that died, two were women, two were men. So it was quite a male dominated script, just historically. And I didn't, you know, we could have gone gender free on the casting, but we would have opened ourselves up to a lot of criticism if we'd done that. And I think when you're not that far removed from the timeline of history, that's quite a difficult decision, and you can only do that if you're doing pieces in a certain way, in a certain format, and we're kind of trying to keep the narrative as truthful as we can. But I tried, one of the luxuries I had was, because this piece was bigger than the original script, I was able to expand the female roles and give them more. The mothers were much smaller parts in the original screenplay, and I feel like characters like Sarah Scheuer in particular have really nice arcs in the piece, you know, and even the smaller female roles like Mel's, we've tried to make as interesting and memorable as we can. And Bella, of course, got to act opposite Jason Fleming, which was nice for her.
That was very funny. That was a night where Lance didn't tell us Jason Fleming was coming on, and Bella was doing her scene, and then realised she was acting opposite Jason Fleming, and it was one of the funniest moments ever.
I wish we'd recorded that rehearsal. We should have recorded it.
It was very mean of you, Lance. I
actually think it was great, because we got the most genuine kind of nervous student reaction from you. It totally worked for the scene. It was superb.
It was brilliant timing, because what the audience probably doesn't understand is that there's a break between the previous scene and the next scene, and in the previous scene we have the younger Alan Canfora, and the next line has Jason, and in between then is when the change happened, and I think I was just so surprised, thinking that's not Ed. That's not Ed. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, let's talk about the challenges of doing a production like this. Quite challenging, isn't it, Suze, for all sorts of reasons?
Oh, so online.
Yeah, and I mean, things are sort of returning to normal now, but we love doing these online shows, and we're definitely going to do at least one online show a year, even if everything goes back to normal, because one of the things that's really nice about it, I think, is it really hones certain skill sets in a way that you don't in a room. And don't get me wrong, I'm always prefer to be in a room and on a set, and I think we all agree that absolutely 100%. The other thing that it affords us to do is we get to work with cast members from all over the world. We've got people from Australia, Hawaii at one point, and in America on the cast. And I would have never got the chance to work with those actors if it wasn't for how we were doing this production. But doing stuff online does present challenges, and productions of this type present challenges. I'd just like to hear from each of you how each of those challenges have been for you, and maybe how you've tackled them. Or, but let's. I'm aware of the time, so let's keep the answers quite short if we can. So yeah, let's start with you, Penny.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, what was it like doing? Well, it was.
What are the challenges of performing online on a live performance, I guess, is the short version of the question.
Believe it or not, for me, the challenges, I'm never quite sure where to look at the camera, because when you've got people on screen, if you're looking at them, you're not really necessarily looking the right way. So for me, that is a challenge. But yeah, so that probably is my biggest challenge, actually, is where I should be looking.
Eye lines.
Yeah, eye line, yeah. So that looks like, for the audience, so that the audience sees you looking in a meaningful way, and because sometimes you've got other characters and they're down there and your eye line's down there, and so that's one of the challenges for me. But it's been a great experience, especially as you said, like working with other people from different countries like Australia and America and stuff like that, and that has been a really good, and also working with such great actors as well. I really enjoyed it, because it's to have that opportunity, it's been brilliant. So
fantastic. Mel.
Backgrounds, I think, has been the biggest challenge. When I did Persecution, I was going between my home in London and staying at my mum's in Farnham. So obviously my actual background wasn't consistent. And so actually getting a proper background to work so that I had something that was right every time.
We've been a bit more highbrow on this production, and Persecution was a lot of trial and error, and I think we'll raise our game even higher on the next one. I'm still fathoming some of the technical things, and Zoom is expanding what it can do as well. There's new features coming out all the time, but backgrounds is a challenge, and we're trying to create sets even, really, with what we're doing. We're trying to set the scene for the people. Amy, how are you finding it? This is the first time you've done anything of this type, is that right?
Yeah, this is my first online thing. And I'm not gonna lie, at first I thought I'd hate it, because I am so just like, don't talk to me about anything to do with the pandemic. I'm over it. I don't want to talk about it. So doing a play online, I thought, oh no, it's gonna just make me realize we're still in this pandemic. But I've absolutely loved it. It's great. The only thing, I totally agree with the eye lines. I'm like, are you here? Are you here? Are you here? And my computer, obviously I can't see it. My computer's got stickers all over it for who's where.
Where different characters are in different scenes.
Yeah. And then me and Jen have got a couple of prop passes. So we've been like, because one of them is like a Valentine's card. So we're sending each of the pictures, like, wherever you put the love heart on the card, because obviously it has to look the exact same on both ends of the camera. But it's been, I've really enjoyed it. It's been a dream. For me, it's just making sure, like my first rehearsal, I was in the car because I was driving, and when you're in a rehearsal for a play or you're shooting something, you're on set and that's what you're doing with your day. Whereas when you're doing something online, you're like, okay, cool, I'm going to work all day and now I have to go here on the way back, but actually the rehearsal's starting, so I'll just zoom it from my phone, but I can't do that because so it's kind of, you feel more free, but then you kind of like, but I want to be in it at the same time, and I miss everyone being kind of like, I've never met most of the people in this cast.
And for those people watching, we do not condone people rehearsing in their car whilst driving.
Hands-free.
I was hands-free, but I'd still told you off about it. I was like, I don't think we should be doing that. And I said, you wait till you get home and then get back on the call, I remember.
Commitment points, come on.
Bella, you did our last show. Penny did our last show. Mel did our last show. You were on the last show. So was Jen, I think. So yeah, but how are you finding this one and the challenges again?
I think obviously I've got the advantage that I've been in the other production as well, so I've already gotten used to it. And it is just amazing how it works and kind of what you guys have done with it. You know, the whole production team and how you make it work. It's just fantastic. Because when we did the first one, of course, I thought as well, oh, how's it going to work? How engaging is it going to be for the audience? You know, how are you going to work with the other actors? Like, exactly, you think they're standing there, but then you're looking to the left and the audience sees it. Like, it's just, you know, it's a challenge. And I think for me, rather than just the live performance, it's actually not having met anybody. So just that connection that you make with someone when you're in a rehearsal room together and just being able to like feed off each other, like the reaction, the emotions, like it's just, you know, that's much harder. But I've also got the benefit of knowing quite a lot of the cast in person. So, you know, so it hasn't been too tough on me, but yeah, I think that's a challenge, not being in the same room.
No, sure. Before I take that question to our next actor, guys, I've just got to share this with you. So this has just been sent to us by Shauna, Audrey's daughter. This is Martin Scheuer. You can see the close resemblance to Dickon there if you look. I believe this is Martin Scheuer with, I want to say, Shauna's daughter possibly, or Shauna herself. I think it might be with Shauna herself. So that wasn't clarified with me, but yeah, she just sent us this. Fantastic.
Beautiful. That's
gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah,
thank you.
gorgeous.
Shauna, thank you so much for sharing. And I did just check with her if it was all right, if we had permission to show that. Oh, she sent me a couple. Sorry, there's another one. I think this might be during the court case, but I'm not sure. Let's have a quick look and see. There's another one here. Because that looks a bit like Mr. Kellner. No, well, yeah, of course it looks like Dickon, but that looks a bit like Mr. Kellner. So I think that might be Martin on the right, but I could be wrong. That might be Martin with Joe Kellner, but I could be wrong. So you'll be able to tell us, Dickon, because of all the huge research you've done. We'll come back to that. So same question to Jennifer about the challenges of.
So before I talk about the challenges, and I will be quick, I just want to say that for me, and I was shielding because of my asthma at the beginning of the pandemic, and I live for creating and learning and storytelling. So for me, this has just been amazing to do. And what I love is that it is a creative process where we're all learning together. Technically, you know, I found it quite challenging. You know, worrying that the internet's going to go down, worrying that my kids are going to come crashing in at the wrong moment in a live performance. No, on pain of death, do not come up to the loft. So things like that are quite scary because you know, there's a lot of people watching, there's a lot of people involved, and you don't want to let them down. But from an acting point of view, I think the biggest challenge has been how big to make the performance, because I come from a theatre background where you really want to project it out to, you know, very far, and more recent years I've been a film actress and it's very, very small, and somehow this is somewhere in the middle, because you actually do have to reach out to the audience quite a lot, and I think that's been a bit of trial and error as well, understanding where to pitch your performance, and I think as you, as the director and producer, Lance, have become more expert at highlighting, but you become more expert technically at highlighting the people that are talking, so they'll get the whole screen, then the performances maybe don't need to be as large. So we kind of gauging that. So yeah, that's probably been the biggest challenge for me.
What's the box?
Yeah, I running the technicals during the performance is I know exactly when to cut to people. That's all. Actually, that part of it's pretty easy. It's just trying to do 50 things while you're doing that. But I've constantly said to the actors, don't be afraid to use the distance between you and the camera. It's not much of a space, but you can do so much with it. You only have to just move like that.
Yeah.
And the power of a word completely changes. I'm not talking about doing this, Amy. I mean, you could do that on a comedy show.
Just being like,
no.
Like, thank goodness he
we were
demonstrated.
talking about weebles earlier today. Not like a weeble.
But me and Jen did that in Persecution, where we had to do a lot of asides because we wasn't agreeing with what was going on in the scenes. So that was, we've not met each other.
Yeah.
But it was really nice to naturally become intimate within our scenes and do this.
Yeah.
And we felt that in the scene, but not in the same room.
Because you can't just set yourself in frame like this.
Yeah.
And play a whole scene, sitting still, doing your dialogue and giving it your best emotional tones and beats and all that. Because just watching someone being that still the whole time in this medium is a bit boring. It's very flat. And although when you move on camera, even in this medium, yes, it's big, because we know, as Jennifer just said, anything in film and television, you know, you keep it all small, it's all internal, it's all behind the eyes. Even a small move of the head is very large on a cinema screen and all that kind of thing. But we know that most people are watching this on small devices.
Yeah.
So you can't just deliver the thing. And we know it is kind of like a radio play where you can see people, but you still have to do little things with the characters. You have to use this distance. You have to know when to come closer for emphasis on certain lines. And learning when and how much you can get away with doing that and when to use it. Dickon and I have found that is a bit of a unique skill set that we're all learning as we're going along, because it's completely brand new, you know.
Yep.
I mean, I know we've got a couple of shows under our belt now in this medium, but it is still it isn't like any of the others. Like Jennifer said, it's somewhere in between. It's
yeah. Yeah, and
so,
also using the physicality with the arms and things. I think you can do more of that than you would on screen normally.
Yeah, and again, you knowing when and how often to use it is something that is difficult to negotiate. Dickon, chip in, you're the teacher here, and how are you finding the challenges as well? Learning German accent obviously was one of the challenges for you.
Yes, definitely. The German accent has been really scary for me, but
it is generally scary.
I'm very scary. It might give me a whole new sort of. I'm not going to digress to double innuendos and stuff like that. But I found most of the challenges technical and temporal. So the fact that we've been doing this after school hours and at weekends has meant that I've had times when my children are about, and I find that emotionally difficult because I don't see them much. So to get them and then say, park yourself there in front of a screen or go and hang out with my mum, or, you know, has been, you know, it's been emotionally, I feel like a vacant dad or an absent dad, but they've been absolutely brilliant about it. And like a couple of times they've been having dinner with my mum and watching the performance at the same time. And so after the performance is finished, they've been able to chip in and you know, give a critique if you like, and they're learning about it as well. I think also the background stuff I found really daunting, but once Toby and Suzette have been absolutely brilliant on that. And we've got pictures and we all decide on what backgrounds are. It's actually got a lot easier. And then costume and doing the character photographs and doing the renaming. If you've got 3 or 4 people in the same episode and you got to change your profile picture and rename yourself and stuff like that, it's and then keep your eye on the script and see whereabouts you are on the script still, and make sure you're back on in time. I found things like that a bit more difficult, and I've decided I cannot do the Zoom performances on the phone at all. I have to be in front of my computer. I have to be at home with my costume. You know, I've almost got into a Zoom performance routine, whereas you know, I've got my sort of play performance routine. I've got my sort of film and TV performance routines. And now I've got my Zoom performance routines, which sort of, I'm a creature of habit. So, you know, I'll always do a warm-up if we're doing a theatre thing, but for the Zoom warm-ups, I'll do sort of tongue twisters to myself while I'm on mute and stuff like that, or start speaking in German, you know, reading the script, everyone else's lines in German. So I've actually, and then looking at eye lines has been really fun. So like if I'm in a scene with Jennifer and we're talking to Amy, and I'm looking at my wife here, and I'm agreeing with her, and you know, just having a really nice bit of banter about schnitzel, and then turning back to my daughter, oh, my gorgeous daughter, you know. And so it's felt like, even though I haven't been in the same room with anyone, it's been lovely to do scenes with people. Yeah. And I know some people are working, but I haven't been doing much work since Rocket Man, and so it just feels great to be doing scenes with people, and really talented people as well. So all the stuff I found scary and daunting and challenging has actually become plus and become a really positive experience. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been great. We not, has anyone not answered that question?
Mel?
I think Brad and Mel.
I have.
Let's leave the best till last. So Brad, take us next. And this is your first acting gig, is it not?
Oh, you just
So talk about your first acting gig and how you found it.
Yeah, so what is challenge? I mean, it goes without saying, I'm you know, here volunteering, working amongst professional actors, and as Lance said, that I could fit in because he's known me for 25 years as a professional bullshitter. And there's some truth to that, you know. And
I'm not sure those are my exact words, Your Honour. Stay.
Not very complimentary towards Brad, and not very complimentary towards actors. Thank you, Lance.
I'm happy with that.
Well, that's the job of acting, isn't it? Is to hit people.
And I have a lot of confidence, and so I didn't think that it was going to be a huge challenge. But having said that, yeah, the technical aspect of it, even though I'm pleased to say that Zoom has become pretty much of a great equalizer for people of different digital abilities, and I have low digital ability, but now that we've just gotten so used to it and all my meetings are on it, I'm involved in a lot of other community projects, and so it's all online, and now having parties with my friends and my relatives and get together with, you know, my cousins and stuff like that. So I am used to it. But this project, having, you know, the script scrolling on one side and the chat scrolling on another side, and people jumping in and out. And of course, as Lance has already said, the support actors, you may be there for 3 hours and you have 10 seconds of line. And so you think that that's easy, but it just, you have to follow and follow and follow and follow and follow and follow. And then Lance goes and puts a picture up, and that means my little mute button has just shot over. And, you know, so, you know, I'm like, by the time it comes to that one line that I've been sitting here all evening for, my anxiety level is now just through the roof. So it's fortunately doing it over and doing it over, you know, and all the skills that you guys know, you not get used to it, but you get confident about it. And hopefully, even though it popped up many times, hopefully on the night I did it right. And that's all that I really, that's really all that I want to do, because I want to support what's going on here. I certainly don't want to stand out and screw it up.
It's about keeping your energies up, because you need to be vibrant when you come online.
Yes.
But not spin yourself out. So to contain yourself, but hold your energy and be ready to hit the buttons and present it.
Exactly. Yeah. And multitask, and then you're on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mel, same question.
I had already answered about the backdrops, but
sorry,
my computer had died before we started the performances. So I've actually been reading my scripts off my old mobile phone. I have to transfer it via Bluetooth to my old phone. and I'm scrolling. I can only see like 4 lines at a time.
Wow, that's too much.
And my camera is my phone. I've been using my phone because my mum doesn't have internet, so I'm using my phone data.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
No one got a good contract.
Bit of a challenge. So I'm gonna one thing I'm gonna do actually is which I didn't do when we had somebody else on. I forgot to give a shout out to Adam Leader and Richard Oakes, who are friends of mine, and Jennifer's terrific, talented filmmaking duo, because we're about to kind of come on to sort of what else have you done and what else would you like to plug towards the end of our interview, guys. With us, we're kind of going to round off on that. Brad's about to tell us about the next film he's doing with Leo, so that's all coming up in a second. Do stay tuned. But Jennifer recently got her head caved in with a hammer, most brutally.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Richard and Adam. Anyway, I wanted to give them a plug because I forgot, and I was mortified that I forgot on this other interview that we did, that I forgot to mention those guys, because they're really nice guys. They worked really hard. They did this horror movie called Hosts, which Jennifer is one of the stars. Nadia was in it. That's right. So it was on Nadia's interview. I even had it written up on a board in the room, and I can't remember why I forgot. So it's called Hosts. It's an indie horror film. You know, if you like your kind of what's that, Hostel, if you like your kind of your Hostel sort of movie, then it's going to be up your street. It's not for everybody. Made my stomach jump a few times. These guys.
Yeah, it's a home invasion horror, and it's very gruesome.
Yeah.
I only watched it because of you and Nadia, and it took me well, I'm still getting over it, to be fair.
Nadia plays Alison. Nadia plays Alison Krauss, doesn't she? And in Hosts, she's one of the lead characters. But it actually is on Shudder. If anybody's got Shudder in the UK or the US, you can watch it. And it's Hosts with an S, not Host without an S, because there are 2 films. And ours is the one that's the home invasion.
It's also on Amazon Prime, isn't it?
It is, yeah. You can see it on Amazon, Apple, Sky. You can see it everywhere. And it got to number 2 in the horror charts in the UK.
Come on.
What?
Yeah, that's pretty good. So Jennifer, just staying with you for a moment. What else have you done recently, and what have you got coming up? What should people be looking out for?
I suppose I have to give a plug to Patrick Ryder and James Bush for the amazing. It's a horror anthology, actually. So it's a few stories within a story, and I play the lead, and my real life son, who acts as well, who's 12, he plays my son in it, and we play one of the creepy horror stories within that. So we filmed that, I think, in between lockdowns or during lockdowns, but with lots of COVID precautions. And next week I'm filming a feature film called Charlotte, which is actually a very dark thriller about a paedophile. So that will be quite a shocker, I think. I've heard a lot of dark and gloomy things.
Another light comedy for people.
And then for TV, I was in an episode of Wheel of Time, which is a big epic set of novels, fantasy, which is coming out, I think, later this year. There's a lot of fans waiting for it to come out. I play Mrs. Grinwell in that one.
Oh, that's going to be you're going to be able to make a living by going to conventions. You go on convention circuit with your signed photo for your iconic character in the series about a book.
I do have already some lovely Insta followers who follow me because I was in Wheel of Time, but I don't think my part's big enough to be going to the conventions.
That's the show based on the series of books. There's like about 27
books.
Yeah. And the guy, the author, the George R.R. Martin guy who wrote the whole thing, it's not him. What's the name of the author? I forget. He got cancer when he was writing the last two or three books. and he collaborated with his biggest fan, who was also he'd inspired to write, and that guy finished writing the story for him because he passed away. So there's almost like a story within a story about.
Amazing. Yeah. And there is a real big family of people who are so invested in the stories and are really dying to see how true, a little bit like the Harry Potter world, in that people are just waiting to see whether the TV series does it justice. But there's a lot of very talented people working on it, and it was really fun.
Did you read all 27 books to research your role?
I'm afraid I didn't, but I have started them, and they're really, really good.
So Amy, what you got coming up? What have you done recently? What's happening in Amy Ginsberg world?
Things. I wish they were all acting related. I have
got other stuff if you want. If you want to plug your garden landscaping business.
I've got my nails done, lads. I did. So recently I just did a play in Italy, which we're going to tour around Italy, but that's in Italy. Going back there in September to do another one. But I don't know if you guys, it's called Social Network, and then it's about social media. It's physical theatre. It's amazing. Climax Theatre Company. Shout out Luca Varone. Anyway, that one's kind of not really accessible for people to see or hear or whatever. I've got a commercial coming out, which should be nice. I don't know if you guys have heard of Bumble. It's a dating app.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of similar to Tinder and Hinge. So you've got Tinder, Hinge, and Bumble. They're like the biggest dating apps. And I shot
over my head, but okay.
So that's coming out in summer. So that's just a nice little commercial. I've got a film at the minute that's on. There's a streaming platform called Watch Dust. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. It's a streaming platform for short films, and there's a few feature films on there. And it's kind of a good place where things get picked up to then be financed for feature.
Right.
A film that I shot in Prague a couple of years ago. It's doing really well on there, so that's really nice. We're really hoping that could get picked up or taken.
What's it called?
It's called A Night at Club Zeno's. It's about an alien invasion of a nightclub. I play an undercover cop. I'm in literally like 6-inch stilettos, battering people around the club. It's hilarious. So it's funny and it's sad.
That's funny because I wrote a script for some guys called Showdown at the Fat Komodo, and the climax of that movie is, without giving anything away, is not dissimilar to what you've just said.
It's so fun. Like, the guy who I did the stunt training with does all the mocap for Assassin's Creed. So he was like training me how to backflip in a stiletto heel. I was like, no worries. Cool. That was great.
Fantastic. Great stuff. Mel, what you got coming up? You've just dropped a short film on Twitter.
Yeah, I made my own short film. It's the first time I've made a film, and I did it all completely solo. It's a little puppet film with a couple of puppets that I own. I have a collection of puppets. I'm a puppeteer as well as an actor. I can also be seen on Netflix at the moment in Haunted Season 2, Episode 2, which is apparently it's the scariest episode in the entire season. I was due to start filming a feature film just before the first lockdown, so hopefully we will be back and able to do that. It's going to be called Wager Danger, and it's a recycling comedy drama about a couple who are very competitive, and they're constantly having bets with each other, and they go into a recycling competition in their local community and become very competitive.
I love the sound of this already.
It's a really lovely script, actually, and I'm really looking forward to it.
And love the film as well, Mel. The short film was lovely.
Oh yeah, we love your short film. I retweeted it everywhere.
Yeah.
Do check it out. What's the name of it again, Mel? Remind us.
It's called Ghostlight.
Ghostlight, that was it. Ghostlight.
And it's about the lockdown life of a puppet theatre director.
Yeah, loosely based on Dickon Tolson.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Bella, what you got coming up?
Well, I am probably going to be involved in Toby's Henry production.
Oh, so that's the next Outcasts thing.
Yeah.
Henry's War,
Henry's
which is a modern take on Henry V. I fortunately don't have to direct that one, thank God. Dickon and I get to take a bit of a break. We're kind of producing it, and we encourage regular members of the Outcasts, if they want to do something, we will sort of guide the ship, let them take the steering wheel for a little bit, if we think it's something that works for our ethos and our mantra. And this was run as a test pilot last year, Dickon, would that be fair?
Yeah.
One of the ones that ended up on our hoodie, on the back of our hoodie. We called it, I think we called it King Kenny, because Kenny played Henry V, and I thought that was more of a fun title. But yeah, so Kenny O'Connor, who plays the judge in our drama, and Toby Cockrell, who plays Louis Schroeder. So you're going to be in that. I won't ask what role. Let's keep that a surprise. Fantastic. Excellent. Anything else coming up?
Yeah, I have got something coming up. My friend did a thing at the Actors Centre last year called In Search of a White Identity, and when the lockdown
I had tickets to go and see that.
Yeah, well, he made a film of it because they wanted him to do a film, and it's been entered into several film festivals, been nominated for several awards, won 3, and they want him to expand upon what he did in the original piece. So I'm going to be playing the wife of one of the characters. So that's quite exciting for me. I'm going to be playing Geraldine, and I also got approached by somebody who's in the process of writing a crime drama for TV, and he thinks I'm going to be right for one of the parts that he's got coming up. So that's another thing that's coming up. So, and I think there's something else, but I can't remember what it is right now.
Great,
but
Penny.
I've got a great at the moment, and I'm really excited about it.
Are they going to do that? In Search of a White Identity, are they going to do that performance on stage? Because it got cancelled. I had tickets to go and see it, and that all got cancelled by lockdown.
I'll have to find out. I mean, it was at the Actors Centre, so
yeah, and then they rescheduled it, and then that got cancelled because it.
Yeah, well, the posters are still outside the theatre, so I'll have to find out. I'll let you know about that. But he's made a film of the performance, which is really good as well. So he's now expanding on that original thing, which is going to be, the new part is going to be zipped to the old part. So, but I will find out if that's going to be performed again from him, and I'll let us
know. We will plug it for you.
Thank you.
Dickon, more stuff with the Outcasts, obviously.
Yeah, that's what I'm loving at the moment. Loving the format, loving doing the Outcast. We've been keeping the brand very much alive. We've been putting a lot of energy in. Suzette has been absolutely phenomenal. She's been absolutely brilliant. And
what's going on?
As Anna Scheuer would say, she's got a lot of sisu. She has a lot of backbone, and you know, she's been providing wonderful, beautiful energy, healing energies as well. And you know, Toby's been doing lots behind the scenes as well. There's been lots of people, and Hazel or Anne Howard, as she also goes as an actress name. She's been doing phenomenal work, and that's one of the things. I love human contact. I love human beings, and even though we're all alienated and apart at the moment, seeing the talent and the hard work and application all being pulled together, and you know, flowing in one direction has been really beautiful to be part of that and to witness that. It's been phenomenal, and it's really touching. You know, there's nothing more heartwarming than seeing people give their time and of themselves, and for everyone to be pooling that time and energy has been really beautiful. So I feel really privileged, and just like to contribute as well. So yeah, I just want to keep being part of this process and keep creating. I think that's one of our purposes, to be here as human.
Brilliant. And we know you've got 10 feature films coming up, but we'll keep them a surprise for our audience, so they're you know, blown away when they suddenly catch you. Do you have anything you want to plug, Brad? Any other community projects you're involved in? Because please do.
Yes. Yeah, thanks. So as Lance just mentioned, I have been involved in community projects or community development for many, many years. And on the estate that I live, which is a council estate in Camden in Northwest London, the London School of Mosaics moved in a couple of years ago. And of course, now I'm a trustee of the London School of Mosaics. Working with the directors there, we got a huge grant with a lot of work to convert a 62-car garage under one of the estate buildings into art studios and a community center to develop the arts for young people. So that we have just come up with the name. It's going to be the Camden Garages Studios. We're in NW3, so at the one end of my building is Michael Palin and Alistair Campbell, and on the other end of my building is Chris Martin, and going up the street is Boy George and lots of. So we're in that part of Kent, but we're in the most deprived area of NW3.
So to be clear, for those watching, Brad is in the poor part. That's what he's saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is it up near New End and all that area?
Up where?
In New End in Hampstead. Is
No.
There?
It's Gospel Oak.
Gospel Oak. Yeah, I know that.
By the train station and the
yeah.
So I love it. So when I got the flat, they said in social housing, it's really social housing in Great Britain is meant for the mad, bad, or the sad. And I said perfect, because I'm a bit of all three of that. But I also have a thirst of being involved, and this has just been perfect for me. And as Dickon talked about, how important is volunteering our skills and our sacrifice, et cetera, and that's really what I like. So you'll be hearing, we'll be making an announcement when they're waterproofing the ceilings at the moment, and they're going to start building the rooms in the next couple of months. And so we'll make an announcement. It'll be big. The BBC, we're trying to get the BBC to cover it. And they're really good on promotion. So you'll hear about it. And it's been my baby, and I'm the community liaison. So
fantastic. Maybe Dickon and I can come down and run a acting workshop for the young people.
Yep, you took the hook. Great.
Yeah, we took the bait. Oh no! Yes, we'll do it. We'll happily do it. We'll happily do it. I'm sure it will be all the conditions that we're used to: long hours, no money involved. Hopefully, a pub down the road where we can get people.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, look, guys, thank you so much for giving up your time to come on Saturday. Talk about mainly Kent State, but some other things as well. We do try and keep the tone of these interviews fairly light as the rehearsals, which we're doing every day this week. I've even been doing them during the day and in the evening every day this week.
Yeah.
The atmosphere of the rehearsals is very serious. There's no underestimation of the importance of the story we're telling, all the roles people are portraying. We all take it extremely seriously. And as Dickon said, it's an honor to be telling this story and be involved in a small way to contribute towards the narrative of the cry for democracy, not just for what happened at Kent State, but throughout the world. This is our contribution. Just to remind everybody, episode 4 is tomorrow. We go live at 8 o'clock UK time, 3 p.m. East Coast, 12 noon Los Angeles. I think it's 2 o'clock at Chicago. We've got some cast members from Chicago. And then episode 5, the final episode, is not the following Sunday. It is May 4th, the 51st anniversary, Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. Where our cast will have a really fun time of dashing in from work, doing a dress and tech rehearsal, and then turning around the show with about 10 minutes to spare, during which time they will eat a can of beans.
Gold.
You're lucky.
Or a banana.
Fun time for us all. But we're really enthusiastic and passionate about the show and the story that we're telling. It's a great family that we've created, and strange that we all feel so closely connected when it's the only time I've worked on a production where I haven't even met half the cast face to face. There are still some cast members I haven't met from Persecution, but on this one, it's a huge number of the cast that I've not yet physically met or had the opportunity to have a glass of wine down the pub with, which is a crucial part of any production, as anyone will tell you. So we look forward to setting that right when the pandemic is well and truly over. God, may that be soon. So it just remains for me to say thank you to our actors on behalf of myself, Dick and Suzette and Anne.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for giving so much. Thanks for everyone for watching. Please do share us on social media. Tell people about the production. The episodes are going to stay up for a while yet, but do try and watch them soon. They may not be online indefinitely. And we will see you all again tomorrow at 8 o'clock.